Hi ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to SuperMix Super Audio Show. Today here we have in the studio the absolutely brand new SIMGOT SuperMix5. So just last year, SIMGOT came out with the SuperMix4 and it is one IEM that has been really well received in the community. I really liked it, but my only caveat was that I wish that it had a bit more dynamics. This year, will the SuperMix5 address that? Let's just start by talking about the unboxing experience. The SuperMix4 featured a greenish sleeve, but the SuperMix5 on the other hand takes this green sleeve, tosses it away and replaces it with a purpley grape color. It still features a render of the IM on the sleeve, but it is done in a way that is quite unlike some other Hi-Fi brands where they just literally slap the render there, and not a very nice one. The coolest bit is that they actually chose a really nice angle to showcase the interesting drivers in this IEM. Below that, of course, you have the name of the model. Here is the SuperMix5 and basically gives you the driver configuration. So it has literally one bone conduction driver, one dynamic driver, two balanced armature, and lastly, one microplanar. Next unboxing, so if you have unboxed a SIMGOT IEM before, this will not surprise you. It is very similar to what they have been doing for a while now. Removing the sleeve, you see the IEMs themselves, and below that you actually get the hard case together with the cable inside it. Of course, there are ear tips here as well. They have included interchangeable plugs here with a 3.5 and 4.4. This is really quite a no-frills experience, providing you with everything you need and nothing extra. Overall, it's quite well put together and it's quite well done. Next, build quality. The chassis of the SuperMix5 is pretty similar to what you get with the SuperMix4. It has a resin main body followed by a metal faceplate. In the SuperMix5, you actually get an SM for SuperMix on the front. Yeah, not some other thing. Other than that, it is pretty much quite similar to the SuperMix4. I like the build quality of the SuperMix5. SIMGOT is one of those companies that truly understands that less is actually more. And the SuperMix5 is an example of that. It is not garish, it is actually simple, clean and beautiful. Inside the IEM, things become increasingly interesting. So this is a quadbrid IEM, which means it has 4 different driver types. They have a bone conduction driver that handles bass in tandem with the dynamic driver. For mid-range and treble, SIMGOT uses 2 balanced armatures, and lastly a microplanar for the tweeter portion, the highs. So adding that up all together, there are actually 5 drivers inside it with 4 different types. Now let's talk about the cable. The SuperMix5 features a 2-pin termination. The cable therefore comes in 2-pin, and the other side has an interchangeable plug system with 3.5mm and 4.4mm as standard. The cable here is made from silver-plated OFC copper, which feels quite nice in hand. It's not one of those really cheap feeling cables out there. Sound. SIMGOT has actually included a graph of this IEM at the back of the sleeve showing a V-shape IEM following the Harman 2019 curve. This is very smart because nearly every IEM is V-shaped, so I guess a lot of people like it. And SIMGOT chose optimal drivers to flavor the V-shaped curve, and I think that they actually did it quite well. So the bone conduction driver used here with the dynamic driver gives bass a new dimensionality. When the bass drops here, it sounds very 3D-like, unlike standard dynamic driver playing bass alone. There is a lot of depth to the sound, which is very interesting. SIMGOT's approach to bass is very nuanced. They don't overdo it because there are some brands out there that just go very heavy-handed on the bone conduction driver, giving you a lot of bass and too much rumble. Although they tune it quite subtly, and it's a very that leads to a overall very impactful tone. For mid-range, the balanced armatures actually deliver very articulate and detailed sound. It is not thick but very refined. The microplanar tweeter adds a very good level of airiness, giving very clean and high resolution finish. Instruments like pianos or strings retain their very natural texture. You can hear the keys, the articulation, and the small little subtle nuances. Vocals, especially female, are very focused and refined, while male vocals remain clean. I do wish for a bit more low-mid presence. Transients here are fast, cohesive with the rest of the frequency range. Treble is handled by the microplanar driver. It is airy and provides very good definition to the mid-range, tying in the whole signature together. Resolution in treble is excellent, letting you hear all the nooks and crannies, Next up, soundstage. In terms of width and height, the SuperMix5 does an excellent job for an IEM in its price range. Sure, there are taller and wider sounding IEMs out there, but they are way more expensive. Overall, the SuperMix5 performs very well in terms of width and height. That is stellar thanks to the bone conduction driver, which adds nuances to the bass. Positioning is also very crisp and clear, largely aided by the microplanar tweeter and coherent with the mid-range, making it excellent overall. And next up, some comparisons. So I think the most obvious earphone to compare it to would be the SuperMix4. While both IEM adopt the Harman-inspired curve, the difference in driver technology used here actually changes the character of the earphones quite a bit. The SuperMix4, it's more familiar to how traditional IEMs sound. It is largely very pleasing with good levels of detail. However, the SuperMix5 with its bone conduction driver adds a depth in sound not seen by the SuperMix4. It sounds larger and deeper by comparison. The micro tweeter here on the SuperMix5 extends a bit more effortlessly compared to the piezoelectric tweeter as seen in the SuperMix4. If you are on a budget and want a great sounding IEM, get the SuperMix4. However, if you want something very interesting, then get the SuperMix5. It is certainly one of the more interesting releases this year. Rating! So, bass is simply excellent. I cannot overemphasize how nicely Simgot tuned the bone conduction driver and the dynamic driver that coalesces in a very unique bass rendering. Details here is very good with lots of depth in sound. It gets a 8.5. Mid-range delivers a lot of resolution and separation as rendered by the balance armatures, and gets even more definition from the help of the microplanar tweeter. I particularly enjoyed female vocals as the SuperMix5 does make them sound like angels singing. Again, male vocals could benefit from a bit more grunt, a bit more lower mids. Instruments rendering here is also very good. It gets a 7.5. Treble is airy and has good extension. It delivers them pretty effortlessly, though admittingly not as smooth as an EST rendering, but considering that it is priced quite a bit more affordable, this is a plus to me as it still does a relatively good job. It gets an 8. Resolution gets an 8 as the SuperMix5 renders details very well with good micro contrast. Soundstage, well, the SuperMix5 delivers very good vertical and horizontal rendering with good depth as well. It gets an 8. Lastly, for enjoyment, to me they outclass the SuperMix4 and I largely prefer them over the SuperMix4, so it gets an S. Finally, in conclusion, I think the SuperMix5 is an interesting one where they deliver on tone that is interesting. There is a lot of finesse when it comes to tuning. These, and if you have the budget, you should not pass up on these. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this week's review of the SuperMix5. Just one more thing, I'm starting a brand new YouTube channel that focuses on travel and whatnot. So if you like that sort of stuff, as of the release of this video, it's probably not up yet, but I will include the link right after these messages. I hope you guys subscribe to it as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.